Offences to consume dogs or cats. Begging. They made begging illegal. Nuisance and annoyances. Unlawfully ringing doorbells. Gotta see what this one is. They outlawed Ding Dong Dash. It's a punishable crime. Okay, so today we are reviewing a brand new bill that just passed called the Obstruction of Public Places Amendment 2023. It's a bill to amend the Summary Offences Act 1953 within South Australia. It was presented on the 18th of May by Liberal opposition leader David Speers and backed by the leader of the Labor Party, Premier Peter Malinauskas, and passed the lower house within just 14 hours, which is concerningly fast, after Extinction Rebellion protesters blocked traffic on a highway. Yeah, that is bloody annoying. It's believed by the public, the mainstream media, and the alternative media that this bill will make protesting in South Australia illegal, which is interesting because protests have been central to social and political change. South Australia became the first place in the world where a woman could stand for election and the second place where women could vote. If only they had brought these changes in. There's a lot of concern around this bill, and perhaps correctly so. The right to protest is considered a fundamental human right, and is listed as Article 20 within the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Governments are instituted by citizens, and the goal of government is to protect the individual rights of citizens. So when the South Australian government produces a law that specifically targets and violates individuals' human rights, is that government acting in accordance with the principles of good governance? Or have individuals who have obtained political power acted in their own self-interest? Peter Malinauskas is the current Premier of South Australia and the leader of the Labor Party. The Labor Party has many financial supporters, including Woodside, Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association, Adani, and Santos. The head of external affairs at Santos is Robert Malinauskas. Holy crap, that's the same name because they're brothers. Now, Peter assures us that there is no conflict of interest, which is exactly what I would say if I was in his position, because the alternative thing to say is, I have a conflict of interest because Robert Malinauskas is my brother and he's the head of external affairs at Santos. Santos is the building that just had paint thrown on it by hippies, and this bill is being introduced specifically to deal with these hippies. Now, that's just speculation on my part. Maybe Peter is a man of infallible principles and integrity, but whatever his principles are, we can see that they aren't in line with protecting human rights. Okay, so here we have the Summary Offences Act 1953. You can find it by going to legislation.sa.gov.au, but I'll leave the link in the description. What sort of things are in here? Offences to consume dogs or cats. Offences to consume dogs or cats. A person who knowingly kills or otherwise processes dog or cat for the purpose of human consumption is guilty of an offence. Maximum penalty, $1,250. Man, what did they have to worry about in 1953? Were times tough back in 53? What else have they got in this bill? That's strange. Avoiding payment. Begging. They made begging illegal. A person who begs or gathers alms in a public place, maximum penalty $250. Alright, so if you beg, you just need to make $251 in order to break even and make some money. Consorting. Isn't that just hanging out with people? A person who habitually consorts with convicted offenders, whether in this state or elsewhere, and consorts in this state with those convicted offenders after having been given an official warning in relation to each of those convicted offenders. Maximum penalty, imprisonment for 2 years. Hang on, if you're hanging out with a convicted offender, how are you guilty by association there? That doesn't make sense. Like, it's got here a bunch of exclusions, like if it's a family member or if you're conducting business, training or education, bunch of other exclusions. But once you've served your sentence, isn't that your punishment done? Otherwise, it's double jeopardy. You can't just continuously get punished for the rest of your life. That's wild. Misuse of a motor vehicle on private land. Drives a motor vehicle in a race. Wait, so you can't race on your own land? drives a motor vehicle so as to cause engine or tyre noise, or both, that is likely to disturb persons residing or working in the vicinity. Look, I think we've got noise pollution laws. That could probably solve that problem. Operates a motor vehicle so as to produce sustained wheel spin. Abandoned skids, man. Dogs. People in 1953 were sticklers. Offences against decency and morality. They have codified morality. Good thing they had it all figured out back in 53. Wait, how did they feel about gay marriage back in 53? Filming and sexting offences. Well, that has to have been added since 53. They didn't have sexting back then. Offences with respect to property. Interference with homing pigeons. Well, they certainly weren't worried about sexting back there then. Dog theft. Mate, stealing dogs. That's straight out. Nuisance and annoyances. Unlawfully ringing doorbells. Gotta see what this one is. Unlawfully ringing doorbells. A person who, without reasonable excuse, disturbs another by willfully pulling or ringing the doorbell of a house or by knocking at the door of a house is guilty of an offence. Maximum penalty, $250. They outlawed Ding Dong Dash. It's a punishable crime. That's wild. You reckon there was just like bands of teenagers running about, ringing doorbells, and they're like, we got to put a stop to this. Section 58, obstruction of public places. This is what we actually came for. Let's have a look at the amendment. So the amendment is titled Summary Offences, Obstruction of Public Places, Amendment Bill 2023. What does it say in it? Well, the first amendment is delete the word willfully and substitute in intentionally or recklessly engages in conduct. The next change is delete $750 and replace with $50,000. $50,000 or imprisonment for 3 months. Man, I can't make 50 grand in 3 months. So I'd take the 3 months personally. After subsection 1, insert all of this stuff. Right, so now, I don't know what it said before, but now you can be found guilty of an offence against this section whether the person's conduct directly or indirectly obstructed the free passage of a public place. Man, this is wild. Okay, so the two big ticket items that changed were the definition of what constitutes obstruction, which is now a person who intentionally obstructs the free passage of a public place is guilty, and the fine. The controversial law changes the fine from $750 to $50,000 or 3 months in prison. Right, so they already had a law and a penalty for this problem. You could consider $750 a potential cost. If protesters have decided that $750 is worth less to them than the climate or abortion rights or whatever the issue of the day may be, then doesn't that say to our representatives, this is an important issue that deserves to be reconsidered? No. It says that the discouragement is not high enough. If they want to protest, then they have to pay $50,000 and a box of chocolates. So the principle that I'm seeing here is that there is a monetary cost to protesting and politicians think it should be higher. Now Peter says it's never been the government's desire or intent to expand the scope of people who can potentially be captured by the law. Well then why didn't he just raise the price and leave the rest? But he didn't. He amended the wording in the bill and now it has a broader scope for prosecution. Did he do it by accident? If so, he's bad at writing legislation and we should take that privilege away from him. Now that it has passed both houses and gone to the Governor of South Australia, Francis Adamson, for assent, it's officially law. It will sit alongside the Public Assemblies Act, which allows people to apply for authorisation for public assemblies, such as a protest. But consensual protest is dumb. You can still protest over there, quietly, where nobody will notice you, because that's how we set it up. The Greens and South Australia Best Party moved 12 amendments in the upper house on Tuesday night, but only 3 passed. The biggest change was to the definition of the offence by removing the term reckless. The Labor Party and the Liberal Party wanted the definition to be a person who intentionally or recklessly engages in conduct that obstructs the free passage of a public place. Connie Benares said, "It was absolutely critical that that be struck out. It lowers the prosecutorial threshold and so introduces a new criminal element into the bill." In a joint submission to the Attorney General, The Law Society of South Australia and the South Australian Bar Association said that this resulted in an effective reversal of the onus of proof. Meanwhile, Greens member Robert Sims has said he will try to repeal the legislation. Another controversial aspect of the new law is that someone can still be found guilty if their conduct indirectly obstructed the free passage of public places. Well, fuck, I wouldn't want to be the police. Stop there, mate. We're cordoning off this area. There's been a protest. Are you directly obstructing the free passage of a public place? Oh, fuck. Oh, wait, no, they thought of this. Section 3 of the bill makes defendants responsible if their conduct even indirectly causes obstruction of a public place. In other words, a person may be found guilty if an offence for the acts of police or other emergency services if they obstruct a public place while they respond to the defendant. So if police come, they block the road, you're liable. What if next time someone throws paint at a building, we charge them with the existing graffiti laws? What if next time someone glues their hands to the pavement, we just go, weird flex, but okay, and just left them to it? Maybe the problem is that we always go to the rescue of these people that put themselves in harm's way. Maybe next time we just let nature take its course. We would only have to sacrifice one of them for the rest to get the message. And this Summary Offences Act 1953 is not targeted legislation. It bounces around from doorbell pranks to why cops can carry handguns and tries to ban succulent Chinese meals. This whole act should be scrapped, and then new acts should take its place that target specific principles and not make personal morality judgments about whether I tear up my back paddock with my paddock basher. It's none of your business. Noise complaints aside. The Obstruction of Public Places Amendment increases the potential cost for unregistered protests from $750 to $50,000 within the state of South Australia and broadens the scope for what can be defined as a protest. It was passed with unanimous support from the two major parties within Australia, Labor and Liberal, with minor parties dissenting and proposing amendments, some of which were adopted. It's my opinion that the Summary Offences Act 1953 should be sunsetted, and new acts should be created that target specific principles, not specific actions. For instance, making Ding Dong Dash a crime worth $250 should be replaced by simple harassment laws. If your bell gets rung once, well, shit, but if it happens at weird hours or if teenagers are doing it consistently to get a kick out of it, then that's harassment and should be prosecuted appropriately. Moral judgments such as eating cats and dogs, whilst that's not for me and I view it unfavourably, I have to recognise that that's due to my culture and the culture that I was brought up in. Extinction Rebellion protests are annoying, and if I was on my way home and somebody held up traffic for any reason, I'd be annoyed. But you know what would bother me even more? Governments acting at the behest of financial corporations instead of their constituents. Governments removing my right to protest instead of protecting it. It should be inalienable. This policy gets a straight up F. If you know more about this crazy country than you did before, then hit that thumbs up button. It tells me that there's one more person out there who's well educated and I've reduced the cost of knowledge for them. If you want to stay informed about future policies that governments are considering so that you can make up your own mind, then subscribe and I'll keep bringing you the information and you can decide for yourself how to vote. If you think I got something wrong or you want to tell me something, hit me up in the comments. I'll probably reply because I love this stuff. Until next episode, peace.